Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Daniels from KOMO News and talking about a story that I've been following for months that transcends crime and sports. We are talking about the break-ins and burglaries at the homes of professional athletes, high-profile names here in Washington State. And now police and prosecutors have zeroed in on one man as the ringleader, and we have seen him in court flip off cameras as he was formally charged with multiple crimes. That man you just saw is 29-year-old Patrick Maisonet, and there are questions once you hear this story about why Maisonet was ever out on the run and away from his home in Renton. I can take you back now several months to tell you about what has happened here and Maisonet's history. Patrick Maisonet is a man who was convicted in a 2016 shooting and carjacking on Interstate 5. At that point in time, police had tracked back his criminal record several years and said he was a danger to society. Yet he served his time and was allowed to be out for yet another case, a high-profile case, back in 2023. You may remember there were a series of home invasion robberies involving the Asian American community on Beacon Hill. One was caught on video.
Hey, come out of all that right now. Everything you got. Come out of everything. Get the chain.
That you can see the homeowner was at his front door when he was ambushed by two men who clearly were concealing their identities, attacked him, tased him, and stole a bunch of items from his home. That really raised alarm bells at the time about how that could happen. And Maisonet was arrested in that case in 2024. This is where it gets interesting, is that Patrick Maisonet was allowed to bail out of jail. According to a judge in King County at the time, he was sentenced to an ankle monitor, to wear an ankle monitor at home detention. That's where this case takes a turn. And the details that have been laid out by King County prosecutors really does read like a true crime novel. We are talking about home invasion burglaries at the homes of people you may not know, but there are others who you do know. We're talking about Mariners pitcher Luis Castillo, Ichiro Suzuki, the Hall of Famer, the Mariners legend. There's also Blake Snell, the Cy Young Award winner who grew up in this area. Edgar Martinez, the Hall of Famer with the Mariners. There was an attempted burglary at his home. And former Seahawk Richard Sherman as well. All of those take place over roughly a month or so, when another person was arrested by the name of Earl Riley in connection with those crimes and another burglary at the home of Mariners star Julio Rodriguez. We hear about a home invasion robbery in the very early morning hours at Macklemore's home on Capitol Hill. His nanny was inside with three small children sleeping.
Help, please!
That happened within hours of the arrest of Earl Riley. So there was a question at the time whether it was all related, and the prosecutors now are laying out this case in extensive detail for the court when they've now officially charged Maisonet in connection with all of these crimes, with the exception right now of the home invasion burglary at Julio Rodriguez's home. So we see through these court documents, prosecutors have described Maisonet as a defendant who poses an incredible threat to members of the public. They are alleging that in late 2024 and into 2025, Maisonet, along with Earl Riley, teamed up for a spree of burglaries, and they've tied them all together because of a Jeep Grand Cherokee that was seen in some of the surveillance video, and that they believe Riley was either driving or with Maisonet at the time. They also lay out in court documents that cell phone records show that Maisonet was near the homes of several of these people, and Riley was in communication with not only Maisonet, but a South Seattle jeweler, a pawn shop. We'll get to that. But the physical description matched at a lot of these different residents, including the Castillo home. And I want to tell you about the Ichiro case back in February of 2025. Keep in mind the Mariners were in spring training. Luis Castillo, Ichiro involved, Julio involved. They were out of town, and according to these court records, Maisonet and Riley were specifically looking at these professional athletes who may be out of town. And back on the 9th day of February, they alleged that Maisonet went to Ichiro's home. He was not there, but his wife Yumiko was. And according to the court records, she rushed to grab her panic button and yelled about 3 times. She was calling 911. But the burglars still went inside and made off with $19,000 worth of items. This goes on in these court records in great detail about what happened at Blake Snell's home, what happened at the home of Edgar Martinez, what happened again at Luis Castillo's home. The allegation is that they tried to break in or did break in more than once. And then Richard Sherman's home, there were family members inside, and again, that Cherokee was seen at the scene. So this had been going on, and the Riley arrest was made. In fact, those court documents are a read in themselves in that they believe Riley was in a car that was seen at a shooting in Pioneer Square. But Maisonet was not arrested at the same time. As prosecutors and police put this all together, a multi-jurisdictional effort, they alleged that once Riley was locked up and in custody, that Maisonet was involved in that early morning burglary at Macklemore's home. What is disturbing about this case, and we're still trying to get answers on, is how Maisonet was allowed to leave his home. The allegation right now from prosecutors is that back in November of last year, Maisonet still had his ankle monitor on his body, and that he is alleged now to have been involved in the burglary, takeover-style burglary of a Porcello Jewelers in Bellevue. And according to the court record, they see not only cell phone records that tie him from his home to that Bellevue jewelry store, but also his ankle monitor. They lay this out in great detail and show that they believe he went from the home in Renton to Bellevue and back. And that shortly after that point in time, in November of 2024, he cut off the ankle monitor. There are questions here about why police didn't try to find him at that point, but then in the early part of 2025, that's when they allege all of these cases, most of these cases occurred, leading to the Macklemore case being the last one earlier this year. Now, when he was arrested a couple of weeks ago, the police in Renton, as well as the King County Prosecutor's Office and Seattle Police Department, they didn't say at the time that he was wanted in the burglaries. They said he had just cut off his ankle monitor and he was arrested on that warrant. About a week later, there was a raid of a jewelry store, a pawn shop in South Seattle. And that was a key development in this case that police had been waiting on. They went to that jewelry store or pawn shop in South Seattle and found a lot of items they believe came from the homes of these professional athletes. In the Macklemore case in particular, they found a custom Sounders FC championship ring with his name on it. They found a Seattle Seahawks ring with his name on it. And those two things in particular, they say link back to Maisonet in particular in these charging documents. And so the person who was involved in that pawn shop, a person by the name of Ming Hong Win Lee, has also been arrested and charged in this case. We haven't really had a chance to see Maisonet through this entire process until just recently when he was arraigned and charged with a bunch of these crimes, 10 crimes related to multiple burglaries, robbery in the first degree, residential burglary in the first degree, and the like. And that is when he listened to the charges, he listened to his attorney talk, and then looked over at the cameras that were in the courtroom and flipped off the cameras. And said a few things that we can't publish on television before he left. He is scheduled to make another appearance on this. The prosecutors are still putting together this case. As I mentioned, Riley has been charged in the Julio Rodriguez case. Maisonet has not. The cars seem to match up in a lot of these cases. That's been a key piece of evidence, as well as a piece of video that we've shown repeatedly on KOMO News outside Edgar Martinez's home, which was an attempted burglary. We see a similar bag that was used in the commission of the crime on video at Richard Sherman's house. So police have been slowly piecing this all together. They now have laid out a lot of it here in the court records. And because of the nature of these crimes and the people who were attacked in these crimes, including the girlfriend of Julio Rodriguez, Jordan Haidama, we continue to follow this because this has been a story across the country that people have been concerned about with athlete burglaries, with the fact that athletes are known, professional athletes, to have a lot of money and buy expensive things. And people know when they're playing games. We've seen burglaries in other parts of the country with organized groups. This, according to court records, was an organized group of at least 2 people, if not a third, that went targeting these athletes' homes while they were away, stealing their items, and then taking them to a pawn shop to be sold. We know a lot of those items have now been recovered. We know police are trying to give them back to these athletes who saw expensive watches and expensive bags and Louis Vuitton items that were taken from their homes. And we know that this case is just getting started, with Maisonet making his first appearance in court. Riley is set to stand trial already, and a third person that police believe may be involved still out there. It's a heck of a read if you have time to read through these court documents. We're going to continue to follow it. Tell us what you think. Drop us a comment just below me here on YouTube right now and chime in on this story.